Welcome back. Well, I thought I would knock out a quick video for you guys while I'm smoking some pork out back, and I'm gonna enjoy this video. I mean, look, I've got some of my favorite bottles here in the lineup. So what am I doing here today? I am just recently came home with this Dark Arts Bourbon, the black label one, and I was on a trip down to Illinois with some friends just, about a week and a half ago, and I picked this bottle up. Dark Arts, I can't find it anywhere in Wisconsin. So for me, it was an opportunity while I was at a Binny's down in Rockford. It was an opportunity for me to pick one up. They had the red label one, which is their high rye bourbon. They had the bluish purplish one, which is their rye. Why it's not green, I'm not sure. And then they had this one here, the black label one, which is the bourbon. And so I decided to go with the bourbon. It was $90, and so today I'm going to do a review for you. And this bottle, if you're not familiar with it, which I am just getting familiar with it, unfortunately I'm going to be reviewing the neck pour, which let's hope it's a good representative of the rest of the bottle. It is cask strength. It is labeled as being 7-year. So it is 106.6 proof, which actually seems a little weak for cask strength. But on the back, you know, they got this little saying that's on all of their bottles. Crafted in our house, savored in yours. The bottle in your hand is more than just whiskey. It's alchemy, wood, fire, grain, and water, transformed into liquid gold. Inspired by the alchemists of old, our masters blenders take good whiskey and elevate it to extraordinary, using equal parts of mastery and belief in the unknown. Don't settle for the ordinary, defy convention, and unleash your spirit. So there you go. Pretty high praise that they gave themselves there. It says here that it's bottled in Indiana, produced by Dark Arts Whiskey House LLC, and bottled by Divine Spirits LLC in Lexington, Kentucky. So it doesn't say, it just says distilled in Indiana, period. So I'm assuming that means that this is MGP product. Whether it's more than one of MGPs and blended together, I don't know. And it also doesn't say anything on the bottle about it being finished in any way. Like I said, though, it is cask strength and it is a 7-year. So let's give it a try. Well, I immediately get caramel and green fruit, like apple or green apple or maybe green grapes. It's also a little cinnamon there as well. There's even a bit of a floral note to it. Well, it drinks a touch proofy. Very tasty though. Yeah, that brown sugar and cinnamon come through onto the palate. More of the people like to call it baking spices, or I think I might call it an allspice, kind of like what you might put in an apple pie, right? That's the finish. Don't really get much of an oak in the finish, which is good. On the higher end, yeah, you know, like I said, it's a little bit of brown sugar, maybe a caramel, maybe a little bit of vanilla. in a way, there's kind of a dry oak kind of starting to come in, and it's kind of creating this mix of flavors here, kind of creating like a vanilla wafer flavor. I think that's mixing the vanilla with, say, the allspice and the dry oak, kind of coming up with that combination. Yeah, and in terms of mouthfeel, it's it's a touch oily. It's a little oily. It's a little bit syrupy, but not a lot. It does cling to the glass fairly well. That would certainly be the oiliness in it, which is certainly a good thing. One thing I failed to mention, though, is that the color is pretty light. In fact, if you put it up against these other three here that I'm going to try it against here in a minute, you can see that this Dark Arts is lighter in color than all three of these. But this is really quite tasty. It is just a nice blend of that apple, the brown sugar, vanilla, the cinnamon, a little bit of allspice at the end. The finish does not take over. It's not overpowering. It's a very, actually, a pretty darn well balanced bourbon. Not a bad buy for $90. But this is what I was thinking, is that, you know, if you're gonna put your stuff out there and you're gonna ask for $90 for it, then you got to be able to go up against other $90 products, right? And that's what I've got here. Now I know this looks like a row of heavy hitters here, right? But these are all about $90. So I've got Elijah Craig, single barrel, barrel strength. I've got Still Austin, single barrel, barrel strength. And I've got Old Forester, single barrel, barrel strength, right? But they're all about $90. This Elijah Craig also happens to be a total wine pick. So in terms of proof and age, the Elijah Craig is 120.7, so proofier than this one. And its age stated is 9 years. The Still Austin is 116 proof, also proofier than this one. And what's interesting is that it's at least 2 years. So, and it does not use the phrase straight bourbon. It just calls it bourbon. So I find that rather interesting about the Still Austin. I still really like this bottle, but it's just interesting to me that they've got a single barrel, barrel strength that, you know, that they sell for $90 that is only 2 years age stated. So, Old Forester. Old Forester happens to be 127.5 proof. So, also, you know, about the same proofiness as the Elijah Craig. It is not age stated, but it does use the phrase straight bourbon, which means that it has to be at least a 4-year. So, comparing that to what we got here, this is age stated as 7, but it's only 106 proof. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give a taste of some of these. Like I said, some of these are some of my favorite bottles. So, here we go. I love this. Oh. Gonna have to compare the noses first without getting into it. I gotta tell you, the Old Forester is just absolutely lovely. It's just so sweet with the confectionery sugar and the caramel, toffee. It's got cinnamon. Yeah, boy, that's just really tasty. Might be a little fruit in there as well. Can't quite tell if it's an apple. I don't know. I'm going to go with apple. All right, still Austin. Very different. Darker. It's got like a nutmeg, cinnamon, hazelnut, darker fruit, like a, almost like a muskmelon. But yeah, that earthiness and that hazelnut, that nuttiness, it's very prevalent. But yeah, it definitely has an earthiness to it. Really, really good. Elijah Craig. Wow. Yeah. I haven't had my Elijah Craig in a while. I mean, granted, I've had a fair amount of it, as you can see. But yeah, there's my good old friend, Elijah Craig. It's got that earthy, leathery, tobacco-y, on the nose. Oh. And there's a little bit of sweetness to it as well. I would have to say it's more of like a burnt caramel with maybe a sprinkle of confectionery sugar on top, but just a sprinkle. Yeah. I have to say that it kind of brings out a little something in the Dark Arts here. There's a little bit more complexity here than originally thought. It's kind of like those apples and cinnamon are cooked, right? Like you fried the apples in the cinnamon with some butter on the pan, on the stove. Yeah. I mean, overall, the Dark Arts is good, but on the nose, I don't know. It's very different than these other ones. It might be a touch light. Yeah, it's a little light, a little on the more delicate side. But then again, this is 106 proof, while these are, 127 to 116, so they're a little proofier. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say one's better than the other because they're all so different, but it is a little lighter. I'm going to dive into this. Wow. Really good, strong flavors coming out in the Old Forester. Cinnamon big time. Wow. And the allspice. Maybe even to that more of a 5-spice. Kind of a graham crackery note in it as well. This one's got that dark fruit we were talking about before. Before I thought it smelled more like a melon. I also thought it had the hazelnut. Well, that hazelnut definitely comes through. It's the most predominant flavor in the Still Austin. But definitely has that dark fruit. Maybe it's not a melon, maybe it's more of a plum. Or maybe some raisins. Yeah, definitely some raisins. It's not all the way down to the prune level, but it's a little bit higher than that. I would call it raisins, I think. Um, yeah. Wow. I'm going to enjoy finishing these glasses off later. Elijah Craig. Elijah Craig is where I learned to really appreciate those earthy, leathery, tobacco-y notes. So good. Along with, there's a little bit of a 5-spice in the background, or maybe it's an allspice. I think it's more of a 5-spice. And then it's like a little bit of a cinnaminess there, a little bit of a nuttiness as well. But that, there's even getting a touch of the cocoa powder on the Elijah Craig as well. But that leathery, earthy, tobacco-y note is what's most prominent on this one. As I'm sure most of you are very familiar with this bottle. Maybe not as many of you are up to speed on the Still Austin. I gotta say, the Still Austin is right there with these two bottles, holding its own. I love the Old Forester, of course. This is actually, turns out, I would actually have to say that this is in order of high notes down to the low notes, right? Didn't mean that way, just that's the way it turned out. I like, these three are all different, but all really good, and I think they're all comparable. And I'm going to be coming in the next couple weeks here, I'm going to be diving into some blind taste tests with a lot of the, because I got so many single barrels and barrel proof and this, so many of them. I'll probably have to do like a tournament style because there's too many of them. But I'm going to have that coming up. I'm probably going to do a couple of other blind taste tests before I get to that one. But I wanted to get this one in the mix. I wanted to do a review of it. I wanted to try it out myself and kind of get it in the mix. Now, before I get into this grand taste test that I'm going to be doing, this blind taste test. And I'll be actually really interested to see how these three compare against each other and whether or not I'll actually be able to pick them out. Although I have a feeling when I'm in doing the blind taste test, I'll be able to figure out the Elijah Craig. It's just, it's like an old friend to me at this point. So, how do I think about, get back to the Dark Arts here. Wow. Gonna take a sip. Does the Dark Arts hold its own against these other three $90 bottles? All right? That's the question. And I would say mostly, but not quite. I gotta say that it would, I don't know, it's a little bit more delicate, right? It's not quite as strong as the others. And of course it has the proof point for that, but it also, it's just a little, it's light in color, it's light in flavor, it's light in a lot of ways. And now I don't have the other Dark Art products, and I know that everybody loves the pick, the purple one, the pick, but I don't have that one. That one wasn't available in the store. Love to get my hands on it, but yeah, I don't know. I know I'm not blinding these, and it's very visible as to which one's what. But I hate to say it, I think if I were to blind these four together, even though the Dark Arts is very good, I think it'd be the first one out. I don't think it quite holds up to the others. That doesn't mean it's not good. It's a very good bottle. perhaps it ought to actually be priced at 70. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that probably, like the 70, 75 range probably would have been a better price point for this bottle. All right. Well, there you go. That's my review of the Dark Arts Bourbon, the Black Label. Please feel free if you have any thoughts on how these bottles should be ranked or anything like that. By all means, please leave me a comment. Please, like and subscribe. But boy, if I had to actually pick which one is my favorite between these in a blind, I'd be in some trouble. These are all right there, right? And they're just a little different from each other, but that's coming up. Anyways, have a good night, people.